I don't know, Michael Girardi. Why do you keep picking it up? Now. How's it going, everybody? We're live. Welcome, live stream chat room. Ben, how we doing today, buddy?
I love that song. I feel Girardi, like he went into my head and plucked out that question I ask myself. I ask myself that every day. Why do I keep picking it up now? It's not just the Chicago Tribune. It's just all the mainstream media and the right-wing media that I'm bombarded with every day. I'll be talking about that a little later, but just like constantly bombarding me. Just trying to brainwash me. Take my brain, put it out, put some soap in it. Why do I keep picking it up now? I feel you, Michael Girardi.
All right. Sounds like you're fired up. Your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, September 8th is just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank the following unions for sponsoring this podcast. Unions like the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and our dear friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. If you're new to the program, this is where we ask our host to poorly sing a song that's typically from before the year 1979. And we do have a song request that comes from Frank, the one, the only Frank.
Okay.
Your song of the day is Tiny Dancer, John Elton. Or Elton John. John Elton.
John. I went to high school with a kid named John Elton. Great guy. All right, here we go. Hold me closer, tiny dancer. Count the headlights on the highway. That's the Led Zeppelin version, which a lot of people haven't heard. Wow. By the way, I heard Led Zeppelin, Whole Lot of Love. Do you know that song, D?
Absolutely.
Is that a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee I see you drinking? Is Absolutely. That a double D? Huh? You got a double D, D? That's a triple D. I love that song, man. I know now we're on a tangent within a tangent. I know Frank didn't ask for a whole lot of love, but I love that interlude. It's still, after 40 years, it just gets me every time where they... That's drunk. Hey, Michael Girardi, you know this.
Do you know that? sounds like the Three Stooges. Okay, your Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Tuesday, September 8th, and live from his attic in my apartment, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today in the program, it's the long-awaited return of In These Times writer Miles Kampf-Lassin. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Yeah, hello everybody, Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this MAGA Silence Tuesday. And here's why. Great weekend. You have a good weekend, D?
Yeah, wasn't bad.
Oh, did you go for a bike ride?
Yeah, wasn't bad.
I know you did. I had a great weekend. I just got to say this. I spent Saturday driving around a lot. I was listening to sports radio. Folks, if you don't listen to sports radio, do yourself a favor. Don't listen. They had some guy on there. I don't even know who it was. It was 6-7 to score. He was going on about the Big Ten. No football in the Big Ten. Are you angry? It's like we're in the middle of a pandemic. This guy's trying to make like it's a big, severe crisis that the Big Ten will not be having football this year. Really irritated me. I was irritated about it all day. Talked about it all day yesterday. Anyway, watched a lot of basketball, a lot of NBA basketball. Love those State Farm commercials with Carlton, acting like he's Chris Paul. Everybody knows who Carlton is. He's the star. Well, he's not the star. He's my favorite player, my favorite actor in Prince of Bel-Air, a comedy that went off the air in about 1990-something or other day. Why am I still talking about it?
It's a good show.
It is a great show. Carlton's hilarious in these State Farm commercials. Anyway, spent most of the weekend waiting for the MAGA spin on Losergate. Losergate, of course, is the furor created when The Atlantic published a story last week that alleged Donald John Trump, President of the United States, called dead American war heroes buried in the cemeteries in France a bunch of losers and suckers. Said he wouldn't go to the ceremony to commemorate them. Remember that? It was raining. He didn't want to mess up his hair. Trump now says he didn't say it. So far, no one has come out and publicly identified himself as saying, yes, I heard Trump say it. It's all unattributed quotes in the Atlantic magazine article. But to quote Joe Biden, come on, man. We all know Trump said it.
Come on,
Trump
man.
There we go. I'll tell you what. He may have had a busy weekend, that Dr. D. He may have been biking all around the North Shore, going up to Wisconsin, but he's still quick on the draw. Trump goes around pretending to have such great love and respect for veterans, when in reality, we all know what he thinks of them. This is how Trump views the world. It's all about him. And anyone who doesn't do something exclusively for themselves, anyone who does something for the collective good, like, I don't know, sign up for the military, is in Trump's mind a loser. Anyway, as you know, I get dozens and dozens and dozens of emails each day from various right-wing outlets. Not sure why. Somehow I got on somebody's mailing list a long time ago, and now I'm on everybody's mailing list. I could kick myself off, but I'm curious. I want to see what they have to say. Plus, I subscribe to the notion of having an open mind. I'm a libertarian in this front, unlike a lot of people in MAGA country. So I want to know what they're up to. Maybe they'll convince me. Hasn't happened yet. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Anyway, who do I get emails from? Trump re-election, Mitch McConnell's let's hold on to the Senate campaign, Newt Gingrich, various Trumpettes, including Eric Trump. Yeah, he sends out emails as well. Tons and tons and tons of Tea Party emails. They usually have something to say about everything. So all weekend long, I waited for their take on Losergate. Alas, nothing. Oh, I got a lot of emails. I'm just going to tell you some of the emails I got. So, an outfit called Red Politics. I have no idea who's behind Red Politics. I don't know how they found my email address. But their headline, Kamala Harris praises sexual assaulter. And then it says, Joe Biden has been accused of sexual assault multiple times. Actually, only once, Tara Reid. We've discussed it. Trump, on the other hand, has been accused of sexual assault over 20 times. Maybe Red Politics got their candidate, Trump, mixed up with Biden. Well, then, if that's the case, Red Politics, let me remind you, Donald John Trump, we heard him on tape, bragging about grabbing women by their pussies. I didn't see you send out an email about that. And he's currently in court right now trying to hide evidence that he raped E. Jean Carroll. She says she has the incriminating evidence on a piece of clothing, trying to get Trump to turn over DNA samples so she can confirm that it's his. Come on, Trump, what do you have to lose? And yet, not one word from Red Politics about this. Mitch McConnell, he sent out a message to saying, I need to see this. I go, no, I don't. I didn't even bother clicking on that. I'm sure it was just an appeal for money.
You need to see this. You need to see this. Oh, man, you need to see this.
Yeah. He's got a good Mitch McConnell, ladies and gentlemen. You got to admit, someday he'll do his Lori Lightfoot. Not going to do it. Where was I? Oh, yeah, Mitch McConnell, you need to see this. But it was just an appeal for money, nothing about losers. And then there was this outfit called Preserve Freedom, and they sent me an email with the following headline, and I'm not making this up. Quote, eat this to poop out stored fat. Yes, they are obsessed with pooping. This is something I've never raised with you, D. I get at least 3 pooping emails a day from various Red Politics or right-wing outfits. Don't know why they have this obsession with pooping. Maybe it's because Trump is full of beep. Sorry, man. That just came to me.
Yeah.
Script that.
Oh, get a little of this one. Oh, man, you got to see this.
Tea Party. Got a Tea Party 247. Watch. And here's the headline. BLM activists terrorize strangers, shout F dash 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 the white people. D, I spent the whole day figuring F dash dash dash. What could be those 3 dashes? F dash dash. I'm really struggling with this, D. Come on, Tea Party. Got to give me a clue. F dash dash. Even I know what the F dash 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 stands for. This is one of Tea Party's favorite tactics. It's all about scaring white people, angering white people, get them all riled up to vote for Trump. So they always sending out stuff about BLM, BLM and F dash dash dash. Got to really figure this stuff out. Trying to scare MAGA, keep them in line. Then I got something from this outfit, American Truth. Bill O'Reilly wants to make you rich. Why do I doubt that? Anyway, I clicked on. I want to be rich. Damn sick of being broke. Being sick of being stuck in my attic, looking at the alley. Sick of having to look at a porta potty.
Yeah,
I want to be rich.
Send that link my way. I'm sick of being rich too.
No, you're sick of being broke. You want to be rich.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Bill O'Reilly, man, he's not in an attic. He's not looking at a porta potty. He's rich. He's got the good life, D. All right. So I clicked and I learned things like, quote, wealth is freedom. And, quote, in America, 1,917 new millionaires discover this for themselves every day. I'm like, hey, man, where'd they get the 1,917 new millionaires? That's like such a specific number. You know what I mean? It's not like about 2,000. No, 1,917. And then this one. Are you one of those new millionaires? And I'm thinking, no, I'm just a freaking loser. Like Trump says, I want to be rich. So I clicked on another link. Oh my God, what a sucker. I clicked on 2 links and I see a video of Bill Riley. Hey, Bill Riley. You got a Bill Riley imitation, D?
Bill O'Reilly.
That's actually not bad.
Welcome to the no spin zone.
Oh God.
Bill O'Reilly.
This is the spin zone. This rich thing is the spin zone. So Bill Riley's talking about the American dream and how he has this proven strategy to get you on a fast path to be worth 7 figures. And all you got to do is click on this other link and listen to him give this speech. And at the bottom of the email, there's this disclaimer. Bill O'Reilly was compensated for appearing in this video. Oh, he doesn't want to make me rich. He just wants to use my desire to be rich to get even richer. Anyway, when all was said and done, when I had clicked on all the clicks and listened to all the BS from Bill O'Reilly, not one word about Donald Trump and Losergate. By the way, just want to point out that Bill O'Reilly himself has been the subject of sexual harassment lawsuits. He had to pay out a lot of money, a lot of millions for sexual harassment suits. I'm going to go back to that Kamala Harris one. Nope, not one word about Bill O'Reilly in that one either. Isn't that interesting? So Tea Party PAC. George Soros is a traitor. Join patriots in the deportation plan. Ladies and gentlemen, you know this. They hate George Soros. I get at least a dozen George Soros emails a day. And by the way, there's this movement on the right. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. There's a movement on the right to deport George Soros, can't even say it, to Hungary. Yeah, I was not aware of this movement. George Soros, of course, is a billionaire lefty, which is sort of a contradiction. Not a lot of billionaires are lefties. And he spends money, some portion of his money, promoting various lefty causes. I am openly pleading with George Soros to fund this lefty cause. How about it, George Soros? Kick a little money our way. I got to feed Dennis. Yeah. He's like a horse. Those Dunkin' Donuts things cost money. Anyway, Soros, still no money from Soros, D, but I think he'll kick in a little bit. I won't be ashamed to say I got his money. Anyway, the right wants to send him back to Hungary. So I'll cut one of my famous deals. All right, right wing. I'll agree to send George Soros back to Hungary if you agree to send Donald John Trump back to Germany. They love him in Germany, D. We'll be talking about that a little later in the show. Anyway, not one word about losers and suckers. What's the matter, MAGA? Got your tongue? You know why they don't say anything? They haven't figured out how to spin it. They could make fun of the Atlantic. They could call the Atlantic a failing magazine, say that the Atlantic made it up, but that would only draw attention to the accusation. Like if your opponent in a political campaign accuses you of beating your wife and you issue a denial, I did not beat my wife. Well, you're just kind of like calling attention to it. Anyway, plus, if you were to call them losers, that would only underscore the obvious. And the obvious being, of course, Donald Trump said it. Even MAGA knows he said it. They just don't know how to spin it. We got a great show today, everybody. Miles Kampf-Lassin from In These Times. It's been a while since Miles has been on. He's been taking it easy, playing guitar, doing his Jim Morrison imitation.
Well, I'm gonna be looking at that hair. See if he got a haircut yet. His hair's been growing ever since the pandemic.
He's like, I'm not cutting my hair. He's not Nancy Pelosi. He's not. Well, actually, in defense of Nancy Pelosi, it was not a haircut, D.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. It was a washing and a coloring.
Oh.
There's a big difference, and I'll explain it to you in a little while, but not right now. You know, I'm still 100% for Nancy Pelosi. Sorry, Babs. I'm for Nancy Pelosi. Okay. By the way, I spent a lot of weekend. This is a tangent within a tangent, D.
We love those.
I spent a lot of the weekend diving into Pelosi haircut gate, obsessed with mini obsession with that. We haven't discussed that on this. Have we discussed that at all?
You talked with Romana.
Oh, damn. You got a great man. I can't remember anything. I got to start doing those short-term memory tests that Donald Trump mastered. Like, oh, this is an elephant. This is a lion. I'm a genius. Very few people could do that, D. Tell the difference between an elephant and a lion. Anyway, God, I can't believe you remember that. But I spent the weekend, I watched all the tapes, and I'm absolutely positively convinced that it was set up. Yes, Nancy, you were set up. But you shouldn't have fallen for it. Shouldn't have gone to that salon. Just saying. Still love Nancy Pelosi. Anyway, Miles Kampf-Lassin will be in here. Maybe we'll talk about Nancy Pelosi Gate, see what he has to say about that.
Oh, there we go.
I doubt we're going to talk about that. Probably talk about the stimulus, all kinds of political stuff. And he's got this great article he wrote, great riff on the Republican Party's obsession with socialists. It's a very interesting take from the great Miles Kampf-Lassin. So Miles will be here, and a lot of political talk. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man Nancy Pelosi fondly calls Dr. Doobie with the news.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Dennis. Oh, there's the brown line. Mm-hmm. Right on time. Hey, Ben, remember that time you asked George Soros for money just right up front on our program? That was awesome.
Did it work?
No emails yet, so.
Come on, George. We're lefty like you. We can use it.
Shout out to Radio Doogie. He says, hey, I haven't heard Ben bang on the desk in a while. Why don't you give that desk a good old banging, buddy?
All right. Damn it, D. How come you didn't get a Dunkin' Donuts for me? It looks so good. Love D&D. How come Dunkin' Donuts doesn't sponsor us? With all the love we have for Dunkin' Donuts?
No kidding. All
right.
right.
Hold on. Choo-choo train going by.
Oh.
Driving that train high on cocaine.
Okay. Let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. And today's local news segment on the Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the 1619 Project, Harmon Gate, Eddie Gate, and Madigan Gate. But before we get to all those gates, have you downloaded our interview with Stacey Davis Gates? Well, you should. It's available at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download podcasts. And Ben, why don't you take a peek behind your back gate, get a good look at that porta potty, and give us a Tuesday porta potty gate update.
All right, hold on.
Oh, Doogie, you're getting the show today, buddy.
Hey, get away from that. Whoa,
Oh.
God, hey.
Oh, wow. There's someone back there.
There's like 3 people in that porta potty.
Ew.
I know, it's disgusting.
It's only like 1 in the afternoon. What's going on over there?
Hey, man, people are rocking and rolling in my alley.
All right.
We got to do a live. We're doing a live remote from Ben's alley.
Yeah. Oh, hey, a rat.
Yeah, we've been known to see a few rats in that alley. Bill O'Reilly doesn't see rats, D. That's because he's rich. You want to be rich? Click on this video. Bill O'Reilly's gonna make you rich.
All right.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly here. No spin zone.
Yeah, right. No spin zone. There's no spin zone because you just ignore the news that's unspinnable. That's my Johnny Carson imitation.
It needs work. First up, JB Pritzker.
I'd love to win a Grammy.
Oh, you and me both, buddy.
Wait a minute. When did he say that? Was that commercial with the Eagles?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my God, I forgot. I'd love. So would I, JB. So would I.
I'd love to win a Grammy.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought my rendition of "Why Do I Keep Picking It Up Now" would get me a Grammy nomination, but apparently not.
No.
Apparently not.
Today, our Illinois Governor, J.B. Pritzker, is at the Chicago Community Trust offices on Michigan Avenue for a 2 p.m. announcement on the latest round of funding from the Illinois COVID-19 Response Fund. With the flu season approaching, Chicago area hospitals are bracing themselves for any and everything. So I'm sure JB Pritzker will be mentioning that as well. We're going to try to provide you with updates on that as today's program rolls along. Nothing much else going on in Pritzkerville. So let's just move right along to the city of Chicago. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Don't bait us.
Okay, we're not baiting you.
Sorry, Dave. Don't bait us. Just so you know, folks, she was saying that to a reporter who was asking a follow-up question, trying to clarify what she had said about Kim Fox. Don't listen to what I say, huh? Don't ask me about what I said, okay? Sorry, D.
This morning, the mayor was at King Elementary School with no students to mark the first day of school over the computer. Very interesting. According to the Chicago Sun-Times and Fran the Woman Spielman, Mayor Lori Lightfoot warned today in the strongest terms yet that employee layoffs she has long called her, quote, second to last resort will be needed to erase a 2021 budget shortfall that she now pegs at $1.25 billion. Lightfoot refused to say how many city employees will be targeted. She noted negotiations with organized labor to identify specific areas for cuts or concessions have just begun. With no replacement revenue on the horizon from Washington, the mayor said she needs to make substantial cuts to lay the political groundwork for the massive tax increases that will also be necessary to erase the largest budget shortfall in Chicago history. We got a quote from Mayor Lightfoot here. Mayor Lightfoot said, quote, we can't ask individual taxpayers to give us more if we don't prove to them that we are being good fiduciaries. Ben loves that word. That we are being good fiduciaries of their tax dollars, and that includes making painful sacrifices. Ben Joravsky, your thoughts?
Well, you said it's the second to last resort, laying people off, kicking people out of their jobs so families go without money. So, okay, that's pretty painful. What's the first to last resort? Does she say? No, doesn't say. Okay, so I'm wondering what's worse than firing people. They go on unemployment compensation, so that just raises that. So I'm just wondering what the first. My guess is, based on past news bits that you've read, Dennis, that the would be first to last resort? Now I'm all mixed up, man. First to last resort? Whatever. It's property tax. That's what I think she's talking about. And by the way, folks, your property taxes are going up. They won't tell you, but I'll tell you because of the TIFs. It's so complicated. I don't want to bore you with the explanation. You wouldn't pay attention anyway. No one pays attention. That's the story of my life, D. Been writing about this thing for all these years. No one pays attention. It's so complicated. But your taxes are going up as a result of that. So when they say they're holding the line of the taxes, guess what? They're not telling the truth. One more time. They're not telling the truth.
Why
so I hope she doesn't. Because I don't want to get in trouble. She's going to come and take my car and make me turn around, or whatever that quote is. By the way, D, another confession, man.
What?
I went for a walk along the lake. Don't tell Lori Lightfoot. And I stopped and looked at a bird. It was flying. It was a beautiful bird. I was like, oh my God, that's a beautiful bird. And I watched the bird and I realized I had stopped walking. Isn't there still a ban on not walking?
That sounds like congregating. I'm going to tell the mayor. Hey, Mayor, Ben was congregating.
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
Okay. All right. That's what she's going to do to those employees she lays off. I don't know, Mayor Lightfoot. That should be like more than the second to last resort. I'm all mixed up. Dyslexia is kicking in. This first to last resort, the second to last. I'm not quite sure what it means, D, because dyslexia reverses everything. And then once you're trying to undyslexic something, you just keep reversing it. And so you're just like spinning around and around. I wish you would just come out and say, I'm not going to raise your taxes and I'm not going to lay people off. Like that would be easy to understand, huh? Isn't it amazing that I understand something as convoluted and complicated as TIFs, but I can't figure out second to last resort?
Yeah.
The mind is a bizarre thing.
Yeah, your dyslexia is like the last thing we need right now, dude. It's Tuesday. We're only 20-something minutes in here. Just hang in there with this bit.
Oh, my Lord. God. Anyway, I know what she's doing. I've been around mayors for a long time. She's threatening you. She's actually not threatening you. You, the people of the city of Chicago, really aren't paying much attention, except for Ben Joravsky Show listeners who are political geeks like Ben Joravsky. So you guys aren't really paying any attention. You know, most people are just going through their lives, drinking, smoking reefer, riding their bikes. Hey, on the left. Saw a few of those. Hey, on the left. I'm wearing my Lycra.
On your left.
On your left. They get so mad. So much anger in these bike riders. Why are you so angry? You're bike riding.
And dude, you're going like 40 miles an hour. Slow down.
I'm Lance Armstrong. Taking steroids.
All right, moving on.
I can't remember where I was going with that one.
We're just going to move on. We're just going to move on. On Sunday, President Donald Trump tweeted something. Gaslighting per usual. And once again, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot responded with a pithy comeback. Yes, it's time for another edition of Lori Trolls Trump, where we read a tweet from the president and then we read the mayor's response. Okay. And we may as well make it a segment, you know? On Sunday, President Donald Trump retweeted a comment suggesting that California was using the 1619 Project to teach history to students. The 1619 Project is an ongoing initiative from the New York Times Magazine that began in August 2019, the 400th anniversary of the beginning of American slavery. It aims to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of our national narrative. Along with the retweet, President Donald Trump posted... Department of Education is looking at this. If so, they will not be funded. Ooh. I'm doing loud Donald Trump impressions from here on out, by the way.
I like the loud ones.
Yeah, right? I need to work on that one. One thing about a dumpster fire, Ben, a lot of hot air, am I right? On to the mayor's response. She actually stated this in an Illinois Politico exclusive. Damn, we didn't get the exclusive.
Wait, hold on. Just stop right there.
What?
An exclusive?
An exclusive.
And we did not get that exclusive?
No, Politico got the scoop.
Dennis, I just want you to take a moment and think about what you could do to improve things. Okay? What you, Dennis.
You're right.
Okay? What you, from here on out, what you, Dennis. Okay? I want exclusives. I want Lori Lightfoot exclusive. We've never got one Lori Lightfoot exclusive.
I know. You don't have to remind me. You've been very demanding this summer. I'm working at it, and I'm going to try to get the exclusive.
And by the way, need I mention this? Mr. Governor, I want to win a Grammy. We haven't got any exclusives from him either. The only exclusives have we ever gotten any exclusive ever? Just trying to think. In the whole history of exclusives.
I don't think we've got any exclusives. There was that time. No, the time Kim Fox said bullshit on our show. Is that an exclusive?
I'm thinking about that. I think that constitutes an exclusive. First time Kim Fox has ever sworn on the air exclusively on the Ben Joravsky Show.
That may count.
Yeah, you know what, D? Excellent. Good job. Give yourself a raise. Take out petty cash.
Oh, are we done?
Oh, no. I want that exclusive. Damn it, D. I want an exclusive just once.
I know. We didn't get it. Politico got it. I guess the best we can do is just read other people's exclusives.
Well, then that's exclusive, sort of. Or we could just pretend that they didn't get it. How about that? We could do that, D.
No, that's rude.
That would be wrong.
Illinois Politico got the exclusive. Lightfoot said...
Damn you, Politico.
Shia! Shia Kapos. Lightfoot said in a response to Trump in 1619, quote, "In a democracy, we do not ignore or erase our history, and we sure don't punish people in their quest for knowledge. Slavery is our country's original sin. There is nothing more American than making sure our students receive an education that acknowledges this shared history and engages them in culturally relevant discussions about how it has shaped the world we live in today."
All right. Is that the end of this news update? Okay.
Yep.
Because I got a lot to say about this. I did spend a lot of time this weekend reading about the controversy, the over 1619. I almost wrote a column about it for the Reader. Probably going to get around to writing it. This one is really diabolical. Donald Trump and the Republican Party, in an attempt to get reelected, are doing a lot of revisionary history, doing a lot of rewriting. I talked already about how they ignore things that they find embarrassing about Donald Trump. They just ignore that. But then other issues, they take them and just rewrite them, trying to put a positive spin for their own cause. And what they're doing with the history of slavery is particularly diabolical and evil, in my humble opinion. And it's scary. It's frightening. Just to give you contrast, I've talked a lot about the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, and part of the Caste, she talks about how Germany confronts its relatively recent Nazi past, and how the Nazi Party is outlawed in Germany, and how there's museums dedicated to people who were annihilated by the Nazis. They openly confront the evilness of this regime and what it says about their own culture and their own politics, et cetera, and so forth, so they would not do it again. In the United States, we fought the Civil War, thousands and thousands of people killed to eradicate slavery. That's ultimately what that war was about. And yet, huge chunks of the United States cannot bring themselves to confront that they went to war. The people they revere went to war to protect slavery. So they rewrite history all up while they venerate. That's the people who supported slavery, who owned slaves, who fought to keep slavery. It's a very bizarre, schizophrenic notion that the United States has to its past, will not own up to its wretched past the way right now people in Germany are. And so Donald Trump is taking it a step farther. He's trying to say that somehow or other, people who want to talk about slavery, people who want to show how slavery is the pernicious influence even today, are lefties, are dangerous, are un-American, are malcontents, trying to lump absolutely everybody who wants to even just address the influences slavery has into a group like Colin Kaepernick, people who take the knee at the national anthem. We should hate them. And so they're trying to rewrite the history of slavery. And that brings us to the 1619 Project, which does the absolute opposite. This is 1619 Project, so named because 1619 was the year that the first boat bearing slaves from Africa landed on the shores of the New World, in quotes, Virginia, just off of Virginia. And so I wouldn't call it controversial, except there are excerpts of the 1619 Project, the original essay, that have come under attack from various historians. It's going too far and overstating the impact that slavery had on the American Revolution. Various historians are called out. Nicole Hannah-Jones, who wrote the piece and called on the New York Times, they sort of backed away from it a little bit. But the overwhelming portions of the 1619 Project are absolutely on target. And yet Trump wants to use that, turn the 1619 Project into some sort of George Soros issue, so that MAGA is triggered. So they just see 1619 Project and they're triggered. Uh-oh, the lefties are up to no good. They're trying to make us feel bad about slavery. We don't feel bad about slavery. I didn't own any slaves. Slavery ended before I was born. I'm not a beneficiary of it. There's reverse discrimination, this, that, and the other thing. It's a very powerful tool that Trump has discovered. It's the backlash tool. If he gets reelected, it will be because of the backlash. No excuses this time, America. Remember 2016, a lot of people didn't like Hillary Clinton. Oh, well, a lot of people didn't like the Clintons. Oh, well, she didn't go campaign in Wisconsin. Joey Biden is living in Wisconsin. Kamala Harris was there yesterday. So no excuses this time. It's backlash politics if he wins this time. And a key element of that backlash is how they're taking 1619 Project and trying to turn it into this really frightening specter to scare MAGA into voting for Donald Trump. Not that you need anything else to scare them. They're already going to vote for Donald Trump. So I've been following this one. Really, really interesting to see how they're rewriting the history of slavery. And their point is that you shouldn't emphasize slavery at the root cause of problems in our country. Instead, you should emphasize what a great country we have. It's the greatest country in the world, and we have no problems. And anybody who says we have problems hates our country. It's nationalism, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is. It's nationalism. And they want to eradicate slavery, but they don't want to deal with any of the problems that are connected to slavery. Just want to pretend it didn't exist. Greatest country in the world. That's what Donald Trump is up to. And Lori Lightfoot called him out. Now, a little surprised that Lori Lightfoot would just out of nowhere jump into this. But then again, as soon as I said it, I realized I'm not surprised. Because Lori Lightfoot has discovered that the fastest way to remind people that she is not a cop, right? A lot of her opponents call her a cop, is to point out that she hates Donald Trump as much as the rest of us do. And so every now and then she has an anti-Trump comment or an anti-Trump statement. And I got to admit, D, I'm like, whenever that happens, I go, yeah, Lori, you tell him. So it kind of works from a political standpoint. By the way, very scary news out of Germany in the front page of the New York Times. I just got finished talking about how Germany confronted its past and is always asking questions about its Nazi past. There is a growing contingent of far-right activists in Germany. And here's the headline in today's New York Times. Very scary story. German fringe finds in Trump a cult savior. And yes, Donald Trump has become a cult hero to many far-right neo-Nazis in Germany. Quote, Mr. Trump was neither in the embassy nor Germany that day, and yet there he was. His face was emblazoned on banners, T-shirts, and even on Germany's pre-1918 imperial flag, popular with neo-Nazis in the crowd of 50,000 who had come to protest Germany's pandemic restrictions. His name was invoked by many with messianic zeal. Donald Trump's message of disruption, his unvarnished nationalism and tolerance of white supremacists, coupled with his skepticism of the pandemic's dangers, is spilling well beyond American shores. Wow. Nationalism and skepticism about the pandemic is taking hold with neo-Nazis in Germany. And if that doesn't scare you, nothing will. Back to you, D.
All right. Another mayoral news. We have arrived at our first gate. Eddie Gate. The mysterious details involved in the time Eddie Johnson stepped down as Chicago's police chief. The following comes from the Chicago Tribune, Gregory Pratt and John Byrne. The headline reads, Chicago Inspector General interviewed Mayor Lightfoot in former police superintendent Eddie Johnston investigation, her office confirms. Chicago Inspector General Joseph Ferguson's office interviewed Mayor Lori Lightfoot as part of his investigation into the incident where the then police superintendent Eddie Johnson was found asleep at the wheel, but the city continues to withhold his full report on the incident. Emails obtained by the Tribune show Ferguson's office scheduled separate hour-and-a-half-long interviews with Lightfoot and her chief of staff, Maurice Klassen, a couple of weeks before she fired Johnson. It's unknown what investigators asked Lightfoot, who publicly acknowledged last fall that she would be a witness in the investigation. Lightfoot's office said about this interview, quote, issues regarding the mayor's interactions with the former superintendent regarding the circumstances that resulted in his termination have been well covered in news accounts previously. As this matter pertains to personnel issues, The mayor's office will have no further comment. Lightfoot has refused to release Ferguson's full report on the matter, despite the mayor's earlier push to get the city council to approve a law allowing certain inspector general reports of high public interest to be released. Ben Joravsky, is Eddie Gate not going anywhere for a while? I feel like it's not.
No, it's not, and it shouldn't. I mean, obviously, it's not as serious as neo-Nazis gathering in public displays of their neo-Nazism in Germany, bearing pictures of Donald Trump, their new hero. If that doesn't scare you, America, nothing will. So obviously, Eddie Gate is relatively frivolous compared to that. So make that point right now. That said, I hope a time comes when we're not struggling with neo-Nazis and they're the president they worship, Donald John Trump. I hope we're not struggling with that as an issue after November, because I hope Donald Trump is defeated. It's my paramount concern when it comes to politics. That said, I'm still a citizen of the city of Chicago. I'm a columnist for the Chicago Reader. I've been writing about Chicago politics since 1981. And I know, what do I know? I know that the truth about what happened to Eddie Johnson, what he did and why he's fired has not been revealed. Instead, we've been used. It's like these sensational headlines. Eddie was drinking. Eddie was making out with a woman who was not his wife. Eddie Johnson fell asleep behind the wheel. Fire Eddie Johnson. That was like Lori Lightfoot. Was that her first, like, quote unquote, cop-like move? Where she just fired the guy and then, I'm angry. He lied to me. You know, they just throw the guy away and everybody goes, man, why do you like Eddie Johnson so much? Well, I think he stepped up for the city of Chicago. I think he stepped up at a critical moment. He worked for that other. Wait, poor Eddie Johnson. He deserves a raise. He had to deal with Rahm for how many years? He had to deal with Rahm's crazy little behavior. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, you should know your history. Laquan McDonald was shot. How many times did he? Forgot for a moment. 17 times?
16.
16, my bad. And by Jason Van Dyke. The official account of what went down was different than what was on the film. There was evidence that could have altered the official version of what happened at that moment. Instead, Mayor Rahm did absolutely everything he could to try to keep that from being released. A Cook County judge finally forced him, kicking, dragging, screaming, don't release it, to release it. And we've had a crisis of confidence, to put it mildly, ever since. People in the city of Chicago have come to really doubt the veracity of what the police department says occurs in shooting incidences between police and citizens, various citizens. So thank you for nothing, Mayor Rahm. Should have released that video very early and show that the city is determined to confront directly evidence that police have been behaving badly, to put it mildly. But no, he fought to keep it released because he was fighting like hell just to bury any evidence that there's such a thing as police misconduct. So Eddie Johnson was brought in after Rahm fired Gary McCarthy because he had to blame someone for concealing the tape as opposed to blaming himself. And I thought he did an admirable job of dealing with the public's and their anxiety and anger toward the police, dealing with nutcase Mayor Rahm, who's always thinking of PR. Rahm comes first.
Take a chill pill, man.
Oh, sorry, Rahm. Thank you. By the way, did you go for a bike ride, Rahm? You look really good. Well, how was he treated? Then staying over with Lori Lightfoot, with completing the transition. Then something embarrassing happens, and she just throws him under the bus, fires the dude. And I'm like, come on. To quote Joe Biden, come on, man.
Come on, man.
Yeah, you're quick. You're quick, D. That's just not a way to treat a public servant. And I know he didn't behave well. Absolutely. He got drunk and he went driving. That was the worst thing he did. And by the way, this is going to show. I think the police handle it well. I think that's how you should. They probably should have driven him home, but they didn't do that. He let him sleep it off. Could you imagine? Oh, I don't even want to think about it. If it was just Billy Bob behind the wheel as opposed to the police chief. So Billy Bob would have been dragged into jail. But there's not a reason to drag everybody into jail. That's the point. So I think that Eddie Johnson, but PC agrees with this. Is one of the few things that Peter Cunningham agrees with me on. PC, a good friend of our show, even though we don't see eye to eye on many things, he's more of the centrist persuasion. Loves Joe Biden, and I'm feeling the love for Joe Biden too, more and more each day. D, by the way. Oh. Come on, D. Come on, D. Anyway, PC and I see eye to eye in that one. Eddie Johnson got a bum deal, and at the very least, we should see that report. Public dollars were spent on that report. This had deals with a public figure in a very highly public incident. I don't know why. I cannot see any reason why that report would not be released. And Lori Lightfoot has just said, I'm not releasing it. There's a quote in that story, D. I don't know if you have it in front of you, where they quote, I've forgotten this. I don't know if we have it on, too bad we don't have it on clip, where Lori Lightfoot goes, I don't care what you say. I don't care what questions you ask. You remember that part of the story?
Yeah. Blah, blah, yada, yada. Doesn't matter. Or something like that.
Yeah, right. Blah, blah. Doesn't matter. I'm the mayor. I don't know, man. I've been fighting mayors so long, D. Can I have a mayor that I just love? I just want a mayor I love. Is that asking for too much, D? Huh?
Yes, it's asking for too much.
Anyway, release the report already. You used the guy. You abused the guy. You threw him away. Now you're hiding the report. What the
Wait, watch your mouth.
Hey, I did not swear, D. Oh, discipline. I learned that early on, back in the radio days. Dennis called me in. The funny thing is, I'm the old guy, he's the young guy, but he's always, he's got the experience. He goes, let me just tell you a couple things I learned in radio school. Number one, do not swear. Under no circumstances should you swear. Got that? I go, yeah, I'm taking notes. Got it. Don't swear. So I'm not going to swear, D. Although I'm going to say it sure smells like a bunch of bull beep.
All right,
they
there
won't
you go.
release that report.
Also, I sound nothing like that. All right, one gate down. Let's wash our hands after that dirty mess, and let's move on to gate number 2, Harmon Gate.
Number 2.
Say it ain't so, Don Harmon. Say it ain't so. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Mitchell Armentrout. Federal authorities subpoenaed the newly elected Illinois Senate President Don Harmon's office earlier this summer as a part of the expansive public corruption probe that has roiled the highest levels of city and state politics. Damn, Don, you just got the thing.
Donnie, another Donnie. That's 2 Donnies. Donnie Trump, Donnie Harmon.
Chicago U.S. Attorney John Lausch's office demanded Harmon turn over any documents related to a parcel of land at Cermak Road and Wentworth Avenue. The state-owned property was one topic of a conversation secretly recorded by the FBI in 2014 involving Illinois House Speaker Michael Joseph Madigan, former 25th Ward Alderman Danny Solis, and 2 Chinatown businessmen. According to the document obtained Saturday by the Chicago Sun-Times, the feds also told Harmon to turn over any communications related to the property involving Madigan. The speaker's close confidant, Michael McLean, lobbyist Nancy Kimmy, or disgraced ex-state senator Martin Sandoval, who has since pleaded guilty to a bribery charge.
All right. God, I could go on and on about this. One of my favorite corruption stories of all time. This one here is really good. So many characters. And by the way, I just want to make one clarification or amplification. When you read the Bright one, secretly recorded by the FBI, it was secretly recorded by one Alderman Dan Solis, who's wearing a wire by that time. That's my favorite little part of it. I've known Danny Solis forever. I remember when he was a community activist and he became an alderman. He decided, Danny Solis is no fool. Can I just say this, D? In the 80s and stuff, he'd be like, well, I'm not going to take a stand on in council wars, the fight between Harold Washington and the Eddie Verdoyak, Ed Burke, all white clan. I'm just going to, I'm going to play one faction against the other one. And then, of course, as soon as Harold Washington had died and Daley had taken over office, he goes, no more factions for me. I'm a sworn loyalist to Daley, and Daley appointed him alderman. Smooth move, young Danny Solis. Mama didn't raise a fool in young Danny Solis. Huh? I'm going with the powerful guy who will never lose. So Danny Solis became alderman, and he did something wrong. I'm not quite sure if it's come out what he did wrong, but whatever he did got him to agree to wear a wire, an FBI wire, and as such, he set up like a bowling pin Ed Burke and Michael Joseph Madigan, and he was recording Madigan when Madigan, he brought in this, it was like Madigan was looking for the property tax business of some developer who wanted to develop a plot of land, in Chinatown. But Madigan's no fool. He's not like Ed Burke, just say, yeah, big tuna, give me the money, that kind of thing. Ed Burke says on a tape. Madigan was like, well, we have a great business, and if you want to see more, I can sell you my brochure. So he didn't really do anything. That's the whole thing about Michael Joseph Madigan. Like I know the right hates him, and they've used him as the poster child for all things bad with Democrats, while looking the other way when Republicans do the same thing. Just pointing that out. But he hasn't really done anything that you can indict him on. So they're like indicting everyone below him and hoping they could squeeze those people into getting something they could use against Michael Joseph Madigan. Can we get something on the guy? It's too smart for you guys. Come on, Lausch, forget Madigan. Go after Trump. Lausch, the head of the U.S. Attorney. Not going after Trump. So, D, I loved this scandal. It's got a lot of great characters in it. And how they got to Don Harmon, I'm not quite sure. Don Harmon, Oak Park State Democrat, nowhere near Chinatown, was not the president of the Senate at the time. For 10 trivia points, D, who was the president of the state Senate back in 2014?
Maria Haddon.
Well, at least you didn't say Ice Cube. The correct answer would be John Cullerton. And as we all know, D, John Cullerton stepped down from his presidency.
He
wanted to spend more time with his grandkids.
Yeah, he wanted to spend more time with his grandkids. Yeah. And I remember you believed it.
Yeah, I still do.
You still believe that?
I still do. Man wants to spend more time with his grandkids, okay? Take him to baseball games and stuff. Come on. And here's how you catch a ball. Oh, and you want to throw the ball, don't bend your arm that way. Throw it full. There you go. Yeah, he wants to spend more time with those kiddies. Watching Cub games. Cubs doing really well. They were victorious yesterday. Kyle Hendricks on the mound. So, that's what he wanted to do. Now, Don Harmon, I don't know what they're looking for with Don Harmon. Lausch is like, let's just embarrass Harmon and go look for this.
Oh, wait, we have a quote from Don Harmon. That's the quote.
I actually interviewed Harmon once. Did you know that, D?
No.
He's not the most expansive guy in the world.
Really?
He kind of keeps things to himself. Yeah. Listen, he's a mainstream Democrat Dem. They don't love me in particular. Okay, but he came on the show, the old show, D. Remember that old show? He came on. I forget what he came on to talk about. I was like, Don Harmon is with us, the pride and joy of Oak Park. And then was sort of like, I don't say much. Okay, well, great guest. Bring you back real soon. Compared to Harmon, Michael Madigan is, he's just flowing, talking. I like guests who talk, D. Have you ever noticed that?
Noticed what?
That I like guests who talk.
Oh, yeah. It makes your job a little easier, Yeah,
well, they're interesting. They got something to say. You get a guest on. So, tell me what you think about that. It's disappointing. That's what you got to say? That's it? It's disappointing? I tell you what, you bring Mark Sims on the show. Mark Sims got something to say. I just want to say this about Mark Sims. If you're listening, very jealous of Mark Sims right now.
Oh, is this a tangent within a tangent's tangent?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Mark Sims, who's a frequent guest on my show, the great Mark Sims, the pride and joy of Fenger High School on the southeast side of Chicago, has his own podcast, Just a Few Questions. I always get it mixed up, and then he has to correct me. Dennis has been a guest on the Mark Sims podcast, and he had an interview with the reporter whose name I can't remember at the moment, who was fired in Kenosha. Fascinating interview with that reporter. I'm like, how come I didn't get that interview? Anyway, so that's a double shout out. One, great job, Mark Sims. Two, really jealous that you got the interview and I didn't. Go ahead, D.
Well, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to give you the contact information of that reporter, right?
He said he would, but I haven't heard anything from him.
Oh.
I think Mark Sims is saying, the hell with you, Ben? Do your own research, okay?
All right, and finally, the aforementioned Big Tuna, Madigan Gate. The time federal prosecutors charged utility giants ComEd with a years-long bribery scheme involving the company's arrangement for jobs, contracts, and payments to allies and associates of Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan. So we got a few Madigan updates, Madigan Gate updates here. First, what happened on Friday? This comes from WBEZ, Dave McKinney, Dan Mialopoulos, and Tony Arnold. Federal prosecutors late Friday filed one count of conspiracy to commit bribery against Fidel Marquez, Commonwealth Edison's former chief lobbyist. Marquez was ComEd's former senior vice president of governmental and external affairs from 2012 until his abrupt and unexplained departure from the company last September. The specific kind of court filing naming Marquez is indicative of a likely guilty plea and is a clear tightening of the federal probe into potential wrongdoing by the longest-serving House Speaker in American history. They're talking about Madigan. He's really old, guys. According to WBEZ, Speaker Michael Madigan invited Marquez as his personal guest to House inauguration festivities last year.
Uh-oh. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Fire everybody, okay? Dennis, as we all know, this is not a particularly proud moment in the Ben Joravsky Show. I've done my official flip-flop on Michael Madigan. Remember that from last week?
Yep.
Remember the flip-flop? And my flip-flop was originally, I had said Madigan stepped down. I think that he'd been in office too long, involved in even tangentially linked to too many scandals, sexual harassment scandals, conflict of interest scandals with the property tax business, and now cronies on the payroll scandals with Commonwealth. That it's time to step down. You're going to hurt the fair tax, which I really want to pass, and you're going to hurt the Democratic cause. Step down. And it just makes Democrats look bad. And as a good government person from Chicago, I believe that good government, good government person, good government. But then I watched Republicans hiding under the table when it comes to Donald Trump and all his scandals. And I just read that. I'm going to write another article, but I got to go on this. Oracle. There was a great article in the New York Times Friday about Oracle. I'm reading about Oracle, the software company, and their connections with Trump and their efforts to buy TikTok. And I'm like, what is the difference between Oracle and their connections with Donald John Trump and Commonwealth Edison and their connections to Michael Joseph Madigan? And I could see no difference. Same damn story. Same damn conflict of interest. So that's when I thought, you know what? Why am I such a sucker and sap that I'm calling for Michael Joseph Madigan's head on a platter with Jim Durkin? I'm going to be here. You're going to hear a lot of this week because the Republicans are gearing up to have their little investigation of Commonwealth Edison Gate. Am I getting ahead of myself, D, here?
Well, the first hearing will be this Thursday, and we learned that the investigation will be led by State Representative and former guest of the Ben Joravsky Show, Emmanuel Chris Welch, out of Hillside.
Yes, who'll probably be the next Speaker of the House. You heard it here first, folks. So I flip-flop. Bang. That's the flip-flop sound, D. I'm now saying stay until the Republicans speak out against Donald Trump and his crime. I think Michael Joseph Madigan should stay. Everybody's mad at me for that one, D. All my good government friends are mad at me. They've stopped inviting me to parties. I'm persona non grata with the good government crowd. My fellow journalists are mad at me. Ben, how could you say that? That's an outrage. They're mad at me.
All right. So to review, everybody, Ben, he flipped when he said Madigan should resign. And he flopped last week saying he shouldn't resign. And now we just await for the flip.
Yes. I'll probably come back. You know, D, I've decided he should resign again. Yeah, that's perfectly possible. It'll be a triple flip.
Oh, and also to recap, that is what flip-flopping sounds like. Boing.
Come on, Republicans, you're the biggest bunch of hypocrites in the world. And you good government people, go after Trump, too. I'm really busy with
Ben,
that.
you got a request. Fred on the live stream chat says, D, can you have Ben do the cat out of the bag noise again? It's a hit. It's a hit, buddy. Come on. Give the people what they want.
Oh, Jesus. You know, guys, not a jukebox. You can't just throw a quarter in here. It's genius, all right?
Where's the bag? All right.
That was like, that came out of nowhere. Who was I interviewing?
Charlie Meyerson. You were talking
Nah, that was before Meyerson.
Oh.
I'm Charlie Meyerson here. I was on WXRT. No, before Meyerson. Who was it? I can't remember. Oh, I remember. Young Andrew Schneider.
Oh, yeah, that is where you debuted the cat out of the bag noise.
Yeah, because he said he's going to do a podcast, which I'm not supposed to talk about. My lips are sealed.
Yeah, come on. We're talking about that. All right, so that's
anyway,
that's our local news, everybody. Make
sure. Sorry. Sorry, Dean. Don't get a lot of requests for imitations.
I know. You're getting really popular here. Make sure to follow us on social media, everybody, at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well, bennyjshow@gmail.com, BENNY, the letter J Show @gmail.com. Send us a message. We'd love to read it on the air. And you can call us. That's right. We have a phone number, 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. You should send us a voicemail. We'd love to listen to it. And if it doesn't creep us out or anything, we'll more than likely play it on the show. So send that to us and reach out to us however you can. Shout out to everybody on the live stream chat. And yeah, Ben, we're ready for our next interview.
Let's hope it works. Let's hope Miles remembers to look for your invite. I didn't do a lot of great pre-show planning here, D. It's the part of the show that always drives me a little bit insane.
It's the part of the show you keep to yourself. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to play a little Michael Girardi, and when we come back, it is the long-awaited return of In These Times writer Miles Kampf-Lassin. Don't go anywhere, people. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. We are live from my apartment in Ben's attic.
Come on, man. Rediscover our fascinating city this summer on a walking tour from the Chicago Architecture Center, now open and adhering to public health safety standards. Our entertaining and expertly trained docents will guide you through the Chicago you've been longing to explore, from magnificent downtown architecture to awe-inspiring neighborhood gems. If it's worth seeing, we'll take you there. Get tickets at architecture.org/tours. The stories of the city begin at the CAC.
Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, September 8th is brought to you by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
Miles Kampf-Lassin is with us in these times, ace writer, editor, and frequent guest in the Ben Joravsky Show. Miles, you're looking very good. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Always good to be here, Ben.
All right. And a lot to talk about with Miles, Trump, Biden, the race, the stimulus. What's the latest? I haven't been paying attention today. So maybe Miles can update us on what's the latest in the stimulus. Discussions going on. There's actually the savior, I should say, saving the country. And then my obsession, Trump huge in Germany. There was a story on the front page of the New York Times. Trump huge in Germany. He's very popular with neo-Nazis in Germany. Very scary thought. They love what Trump is doing this in the United States and want to recreate it in Germany. And this is all happening as Trump rewrites history of slavery in our country to try to somehow or other fit it to the Republican narrative. Very interesting attempt by Donald Trump to try to eradicate slavery as like it never happened. And that leads to a similar attempt by the Republican Party to sort of rewrite everything. And it's the title of an essay that Miles wrote for In These Times. The Republican Party's puzzling obsession with socialism, with the pandemic ravaging the country, a historically unpopular president, and no platform to run on, the GOP has set its sights on attacking socialism. It doesn't seem to be working. My favorite part of the story, Miles, is when you're going through listing all the quotes by various Trump MAGA hat wearers to denounce and scare us with socialism. And you do go to Tim Scott's speech at the Republican convention, where I think he meant to say dystopia, but instead he said utopia. He goes, if Biden is elected, it'll be a socialist utopia in the United States. Going, yeah, man, sounds good to me. And everywhere in the country, MAGA hat wearers were like, oh my God, a socialist utopia. We're going to vote for Biden. Anyway, why don't you take the deep dive and tell us more about what you wrote about and your thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, so I'm glad you appreciated that particular little line. I think that it just speaks to the puzzling nature of how the Republican Party is attempting to run this candidate in Donald Trump, who is, as I say, historically unpopular and has no way of staying on message. I mean, the main thing that this president is good at is being the center of attention, right? And he wants everyone to respond to whatever he is doing, whatever he's saying. And yet, when it comes to Joe Biden, they just have not been able to land punches the same way that they did with Hillary Clinton. I mean, if you remember in 2016, there was a whole ecosystem kind of right-wing think tanks and, Steve Bannon-aligned groups that were putting out materials trying to demonize Hillary Clinton. And it was a product of decades of Republican Party attacks. Joe Biden, it's been a more difficult battle for the Republicans to paint him as this scary, evil force that could upend American life. And so instead, what they've decided to do is just use essentially the playbook they would have ran against Bernie Sanders had he been the nominee, but just say Joe Biden is an empty vessel, essentially, and that he's going to carry the torch of the far left in the Democratic Party, and would result in some type of a socialist takeover of America. Of course, I think that's all boogeyman talk for somebody like myself who identifies as a democratic socialist. I wish that Joe Biden was embracing more of the left's agenda and platform. And honestly, I think, without even calling it socialism, he could benefit from embracing some of the policies that the left has been pushing for a long time now in this country. Things like Medicare for All, which is incredibly popular, not just among Democratic voters, but amongst the American population as a whole. But instead, it's just a curious strategy because Joe Biden himself is such the antithesis of, a socialist threat in America. He's staked his entire career on centrism. Essentially, he's always talking about reaching across the aisle, and he's been quoted as saying he's one of the most socially conservative guys around. He's always trying to kind of get out of this traditional left-right prism of American politics. So painting him as a socialist threat, it doesn't really stack up with his career. And it's odd as well because there's plenty of things you could criticize Joe Biden about, and I think Trump has been trying to move into that lately. He's been retweeting critiques of Joe Biden's war record and trying to, pose himself as anti-war candidate, essentially, is what Trump is trying to do now in the wake of the revelations in that Atlantic story about Trump calling veterans losers and suckers. He's now trying to run against the Pentagon, essentially, which doesn't really add up because he's overseen huge expansions in the military budget and appointed people like John Bolton, a total war hawk, into the administration. So, it's all in bad faith. But the socialism critique, it just doesn't really stack up, and it doesn't seem to be working either, as I say. I mean, when you look at the polls, but also when you look at what candidates are trusted on certain issues, if this is an attempt to kind of make Joe Biden out to be a strange force that voters are uncomfortable with. He was the vice president for 8 years. People kind of have a sense of Joe Biden. So it's a curious approach, and it's not what I really expected. I thought that the Republican Party would at least put forward a platform, but as I note, they neglected to write a party platform this year. Very strange move by a party in power. You'd think they'd want to run on a record and, set forth an agenda for the next 4 years, but they've decided to eschew that and instead just, shriek about socialism. And I gotta say, I think what it does, especially if we do see a Joe Biden victory, the ultimate outcome of that is just going to be normalizing socialism. Because if you keep screaming about it and then you get a Joe Biden presidency, he's certainly, not going to implement the type of policies that the right is accusing him of supporting now, things like defunding the police, which Joe Biden has never actually embraced. That will only reify the sense that socialism isn't some scary foreign concept, the same way they called, Barack Obama a socialist, and we didn't, embrace the same type of policies you see in the countries that they were trying to associate Barack Obama with, places like Venezuela and Cuba. So yeah, that's the my main point in the article is just that this is a strange strategy by them. It's not exactly what I expected them to be running on, and I really don't think it's going to have the effect that they intend.
No, everything about Donald Trump's strategy is strange. Is a good word. Schizophrenics, in other words, just the point you made, which we'll get back to. Donald Trump posing as an anti-war candidate while pouring billions and billions and billions and billions into the war machine is very bizarre in and of itself. But we'll come back to that. But I want to see your thoughts on, if I strip everything away, the Republican message, and it's very Trumpian. And I've talked about this already in terms of Donald Trump calling war heroes who were killed in battle losers. Of course he said it. We all know he said it. Even MAGA knows he said it. But there's this notion in the Republican Party, Miles, that anything in which people are espousing a collective good is harmful, and that it's the individual acting alone, looking out for his or her own best interests, that is at the heart of the American legacy, if you will, or that's what American virtues and values are all about. And do you think that's an effective message? When you hear that, does that turn you off? Do you have an argument to counter it? What's your general reaction to that?
Well, I think that there is a strong kind of libertarian current that animates much of the modern conservative movement in America. And you're right to, point out how that focuses on individual struggle versus some type of a collective effort. But the interesting thing is, if you look back throughout American history, the presidents who tend to win re-election are those who can summon a sense of a collective American energy working towards some goal, and that's, I think that Barack Obama was very successful. I mean, his campaign was built on not just hope and change, but unity, and this idea that, we're fighting together for justice, for trying to reach, some goals to complete the American project, essentially, to overcome some of the stains of our history, such as slavery and the legacy of racism, as you brought up earlier. But the modern conservative movement just kind of rejects all of that and says that we need to focus on protecting ourselves and our communities, but communities being very not like the American community, things like the suburbs. That's one of the other things that came up during the Republican convention, was all of these messages about the Democrats are coming after the suburbs, as if that's a particular the bête noire of the Democrats or something, when it's just a naked attempt to try to win over some votes. I mean, Republicans clearly see that as their path to power, is just igniting a base in the suburbs. But we're in the midst of a pandemic that is about to have killed over 200,000 Americans. There's, just economic catastrophe across the country. And there is a collective sense of grief right now, I think, that is going on, not just because of the death, but because of, in many ways, the loss of our previous lives as Americans, because of how, the totality of the impact of this pandemic, and how that has been fueled by this administration's completely inept response to it. So I think people are looking for a sense of collectivism to respond to the intensity of the challenges that we're facing right now. And, I've had my critiques of Joe Biden. I don't think that he's necessarily the best messenger, but he's doing a hell of a better job of, speaking to that sense of collective grief and outrage than the president or anyone in his administration is doing right now.
All right, let's go into a little bit about Trump positioning himself as an anti-war candidate, which is a very interesting, campaign strategy on many fronts. John Bolton, you mentioned, based on he auditioned on Fox News, ripping Democrats. Donald Trump saw those appearances, hired him, brought him into the White House. Then they had a falling out. Bolton wrote a book very critical of Donald Trump, made a lot of money on that book. And yet he won't come out and say that he heard Donald Trump make those disparaging remarks about American soldiers who were buried in cemeteries in France. And so it's funny, I get all these emails from the right. I tell you, I talk about this all the time. And they've actually, on one hand, they rip John Bolton as a traitor who went against the great Donald Trump. And then they bring him out. They bring him out a week later. John Bolton says he never heard. So amplify your thoughts a bit on Donald Trump positioning himself as an anti-war candidate.
Well, this fits in nicely with a piece that we just published today in these times that I encourage folks to go check out. And it's an interview essentially with an Air Force veteran who actually confronted Joe Biden during the Democratic primary campaign. And it was caught on video. And he's a vet, and he confronted Biden over Biden's support for the Iraq war because of how disastrous it was. And this was, I think it was on Super Tuesday. It was in the throes of the Democratic primary. Now, and the video at the time went viral. Now it's being reappropriated by Trump. His son, Don Jr., started pushing it out as a way to critique Joe Biden, and now Donald Trump himself is retweeting it. And so we have an interview with this Air Force veteran who says that, this is a complete misuse of his statement, that he by no means supports anything the Trump administration is doing, that Trump himself is a warmonger. If you look at things like pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, the assassination of the Iranian general that happened, the continued U.S. participation in the Yemen war and supporting the Saudi efforts there, which, there was actually, the War Powers Act was used in Congress for the first time, and Donald Trump decided to veto that in order to continue U.S. involvement in the Yemen war. So I think it's very laughable, this idea of Trump now trying to position himself as anti-war. I think you can be very critical of Joe Biden's record as this Iraq veteran was, while still speaking out against, the horrors that have taken place under Donald Trump. And that's exactly what he does in this article. He's, and he demands that Trump stop sharing this video because it's, twisting his critique of Biden into somehow being supportive of Trump, when clearly this veteran himself is not supportive at all of Trump, nor is were his comments meant to be used in this way. And it's such a cynical ploy by this president that I guess we shouldn't be surprised by at this point. But I think anybody who's, watched the past, almost 4 years of a Trump presidency can realize that Trump himself is no anti-war champion.
Oh my God! I'm just listening to you, Miles. I'm just thinking about the inconsistencies about Donald Trump. But just think about this. Now suddenly he's using statements by anti-war activists against Joe Biden. Donald Trump never once stuck his neck out for anybody. So when I go back in mind in the world, what it looked like in 2001, 2002, 2003, in the aftermath of 9/11, and the people who spoke out against American intervention in Iraq and even in Afghanistan, they were lefties. They were leftists. Those are the people who took to the streets. Those are the same people who protested in 1991 when Daddy Bush went to war against Hussein in Iraq in 1991. There's always the people who go to the streets. Donald Trump was never in the streets. Donald Trump was never sticking his neck out. Donald Trump made fun of them. So now here he is embracing their message of anti-war. At the same time, he's maligning them, calling them socialists and saying they want to turn the United States into Venezuela. Which one is it? You steal their message and then you malign them. And I get irritated because, part of me thinks, wow, it's a pretty effective bit of political jujitsu, but the American people are way too sophisticated to fall for it. And then I realize, I'm relying on the sophistication of the American people not to fall for it, Miles.
Yeah, well, that's why it takes things like, journalists and, advocates as well to speak out against this stuff and make sure that it doesn't, that Trump is not able to successfully do that kind of jujitsu. I mean, that's on issue after issue. I think we're going to see Donald Trump try to triangulate, to steal a term from the Bill Clinton era, on a number of these issues. I think he'll start hitting Biden on trade and other areas. The thing is, in 2016, Trump didn't have a record in office. He was the star of The Apprentice. He was a business guy. And so he just said whatever, and you couldn't, criticize him because he had no record. And so when he said things like, I'm going to protect Social Security and Medicare, or I'm going to get everybody health care, it seemed outlandish, but at least, you could forgive people for believing it because he ran as an anti-establishment candidate and he said he was going to shake things up and drain the swamp. Well, now there's a record, there's 4 years. And what did we just see? Trump signed these executive orders that ostensibly to help provide some stimulus to people, even though his administration was blocking a Democratic bill in the House, which we can get to in the stimulus measures that would have provided way more support for working people. But the way he did it was cutting the tax mechanisms that fund Social Security to essentially defund Social Security over in a matter of years, essentially. So at the same time, he said, I'm going to protect your Social Security and your Medicare, he is actively working to undermine Social Security, which is one of the most beloved programs in the country. So it's, I think, very smart of the Biden campaign to be hitting him on that. You know, they have ads out right now talking about that. The fact is, Donald Trump is, you know, he's done many outlandish things, but he's essentially governed as a classic Republican, and he's been, you know, instituting austerity and working to cut the welfare state and making it harder for, you know, people to organize unions in their workplaces. All the goals that the right has had for a long time, Donald Trump is carrying out. He's not some type of a, you know, new type of politician who's willing to buck his party to, you know, get the job done or negotiate a good deal. He's none of that. And I think that at this point, now that we've, you know, been living under him for 4 years, I give the American people a little bit more credit when it comes to their ability to discern, like, whether this guy is going to actually do what he's not going to do. That said, I think he's got a firm base that's going to stick with him regardless. But and I do think this will be a close election, but I don't think that he can successfully do. I think he's going to move on from this anti-war thing in a few days, and so it'll just, you know, be another little campaign stunt.
Oh, the anti-war thing is his attempt to change the subject from the Atlantic magazine article. And I mean, Trump is so transparent, right? Duh, you know, I mean, on one hand, Trump promotes his reverence for people who serve. On the other hand, just the notion of joining the military and giving up your pursuit of individual riches, making yourself rich, putting your career online, goes against everything Donald Trump has lived. It's totally contradicts Trumpism. Trumpism is all about doing something for yourself. And who cares how it affects anybody else, as long as you win, you're a winner, they're losers. And all that matters is if you emerge from the fray with more money or power. And so the notion of doing something of sacrifice, like joining an army or joining the Marines, is so contrary to Donald Trump. And yet he has to pretend as though he respects people who do that, when you know he has just utter contempt for them. And he expresses it every now and then, particularly because he didn't want to have to go outside when it was raining and would mess up his comb over, which he spends a lot of time working on. That's the whole thing, is he didn't want to get the comb over messed up. And so, yeah, he's got to come up with some kind of excuse, Miles, to justify all the nasty things he says and feels about veterans.
Exactly. And the other thing is that, you know, along with the trying to malign Biden and the Democratic establishment as socialists, weirdly, because they're clearly not, he's also tried to make this about law and order, you know, and essentially run a Nixon-style campaign. The difference is, when Nixon was running on law and order, you remember this, I'm sure, you know, he was running against a Democrat who had been in power. You know, Trump is trying to run against Joe Biden as the message is, Biden is going to do to this country what is already happening under me, you know, and that's why we need to stop it by reelecting me. It's just this insane logic that I can't imagine, you know, and it doesn't, the reason I bring it up is because it doesn't seem to be successful. When you look at a lot of these swing states where they've done polling, places like Wisconsin, Biden's getting higher marks on who would be, you know, who would deal with the protest movement better, who would deal with, you know, violence and looting and things. It's not Trump. So he's not really winning that argument, because that's the most crystal clear, you know, thing there is that, you know, the violence we're seeing, whatever, you know, the scourge of right-wing vigilantism that is going on. This is occurring in not just under Donald Trump, but it's being stoked by him. I mean, it's part of what he has wrought in our country. And so running against Joe Biden as, oh, he's going to do this. I mean, there's a Twitter account called Students for Trump that literally sent out, because Trump went to Kenosha and like toured some of these burned out buildings. And the tweet was, Trump tours what Biden will do to America. And it's like, this happened under your presidency. So it's very difficult for me to see that being successful. I think he's going to continue trying. And clearly he still thinks that the more violence there is, and this is what's so sadistic, is going to help him politically. I don't think that that's going to end up working, but it's very, very dangerous, because it brings out this militia and fascistic current in American life that, as we have seen, can be deadly. So that's, I am worried about what we will see next from him, but I don't think it's going to be just the same thing. I think he's going to continue trying to, navigate rough political waters by doing the most unexpected thing.
Well, one of the things he's doing, I talked about this briefly, is to try to rewrite the history of slavery in our country and to somehow or other turn people's criticism of slavery into a way to motivate MAGA to come out to vote, as though when people criticize slavery, they're denigrating America. It's almost like he's saying slavery was a good thing, but he hasn't come out yet and explicitly said that. I think that's the next one to fall. So what he's done is he's turned the 1619 Project into sort of a rallying cry for MAGA, in much the way George Soros, you just say the name George Soros. They don't even know what they're criticizing. MAGA, John Cass and MAGA, they start salivating, like dogs. Oh, George Soros. By the way, George Soros, if you're listening, anytime you want to donate to the Ben Joravsky Show, we will accept your money. Big fans of George Soros and the Ben Joravsky Show. Your thoughts on Donald Trump's efforts to rewrite the history of slavery? If in these times hasn't not written about this yet, he may have, and I may have missed it, but this is a total in these times theme to address.
Yeah, we wrote a little bit when the 1619 Project came out about it, but his particular, Trump's current attempts to, what he says he's going to somehow defund local school districts that teach the 1619 Project. I don't think there's any legal mechanism by which he could do that. But I mean, he also said, if you remember, he said a month ago that he was going to have a healthcare plan by the end of August, and it's September now, and there's been no follow up on that. So I think that, it's just another one of these things that is meant to stoke the base. But I mean, slavery is the original sin of America, and it is what, our country it has built all of the structures of, when people talk about institutional and structural racism, it is all resulted from the legacy of slavery, and then, a brief era of Reconstruction, and then a slide back through Jim Crow laws into racism built into the American legal system, the judicial system, criminal justice system. And this is a moment right now, I think, in American history where that is finally being dealt with in some way, not, to the extent that it needs to be, but I think there is a psychological change happening, and you can see that through opinion polls, especially those that show, massive support for the Black Lives Matter protests, as well as the, involvement of people in this larger protest movement. I mean, by all accounts, this is the largest protest movement in American history we're seeing right now, and that's very out of step from where Trump is coming from. He just wants to, wink and nod to the most extreme racist and white nationalist elements that exist in our society. And it's really shocking to see, because he trusts basically anybody who pledges any support for Trump, he will just see as his base that he needs to then, appeal to even more. And you see that through these weird justifications for QAnon. When the reporter brought that up at a press conference with Trump, and he said, "Oh, well, I hear they like me, so they can't be that bad." When, we know that these are deeply disturbed people, not necessarily everybody who believes in QAnon, but certainly the purveyors of it. I mean, that's almost cultish. But yet they're, you know, them and the big, beautiful boaters are like the only real present elements of Trump support you can see nationally. So these are the type of people he's trying to appeal to through these not even really coded messages that are deeply racist. And I think that it's just so, especially to go from a president that, I mean, I also have my critiques of Barack Obama, but to go from a president who spoke eloquently and compassionately about the history of racial injustice in America and the present of it, to Donald Trump, who, as you say, is almost denying, you know, that slavery was a problem in American history. You almost get political whiplash from thinking about it.
Yeah. By the way, that the boaters you reference, there was a very funny meme that someone sent to me. I have to admit, I laughed out loud. The boater, you're talking about the boaters in Texas who all showed up to support Donald John Trump, and then they had some kind of mishap and boats were sinking. You're talking about those boaters? Is that what you're talking about?
That's right. I mean, consistently, Trump has talked about his big, beautiful boaters, because it's this wasn't the first boat parade that resulted in some boats not making it. You know, there's been a number of these boat parades for Trump so far, and they tend to result in, I mentioned metaphorically the rough political waters, but this is like literally these boats. And what's so interesting about it is the big boats, the almost yacht-like bigger pontoon boats, end up sinking the smaller boats, that are really people with lesser means that have these boats. Those are the ones that end up sinking. So it's this weird metaphor for kind of Trump's America. It's like, you're good winners and losers, and the people with the most resources obviously are the ones that are going to win out, even when it comes to the big, beautiful boaters of the MAGA world.
Yeah. By the way, so here's the meme. I just looked it up. It shows a picture of a Trump boat with all these flags flying. By the way, this is a whole other thing. You could get your Trump-Pence flags. And when I drove through Michigan, I saw these Trump-Pence flags. I mean, people are really serious for Trump. I mean, I have supported a lot of candidates in my life, but I almost have to give Trump credit for building a base that worships him. These people are flying freaking flags, big flags outside. Trump, Pence. And in a heartbeat, if Trump has a problem with Pence, he'll X him out, and those people will just clip out Pence, his name like he didn't even exist. They just do whatever Donnie tells them. But anyway, so here's a boat with the Trump flag flying, and the boat is clearly in rough waters and a lot of trouble. And there's a picture of it. And so the caption is them, help, our boat is sinking. And then below it says me, quote, all boats matter. And I saw that meme. I'm like, damn, that's pretty clever.
There's also, if you look it up, there's a great iconic photo of one of the boats that did sink at the bottom of the lake with the Trump flag still flying, so.
I hope that, that stands to symbolize something. All right, let's move on to the discussion of the stimulus. You keep us updated because we're, of course, doing the show. We're missing the live action. This is a struggle. A very important struggle politically. It reflects where the Republicans are coming from, where the Democrats are coming from, and how a government could use its gazillions and gazillions of dollars that it raises every year in taxes to actually help somebody, as opposed to fortifying the inequities that exist in our country. What's the latest in the debate going on in Congress, Miles?
Well, just today, the Senate returned from its Congress returned from its August recess, and so from where we last left off, the Democrats had proposed the HEROES Act, which was many weeks ago now. It was passed months ago, in fact. And that was a $3 trillion bill to provide all sorts of economic support and relief, including obviously funding the Postal Service, which has been a major political fight, and money for elections in general, for election security. I mean, Trump is always screaming about fraud, but then maybe he'd want to, put some more money into election security, as well as further stimulus checks, extended unemployment benefits, which, as we know, dropped on. They were previously $600 a week. Now they're, through an executive order, some states are doing $300, but most are not. So anyway, this was kind of an omnibus bill from the Democrats, and that had been their bargaining position. Of course, Mitch McConnell has refused to take that up in any way. Previously, he had floated a $1 trillion bill that his caucus shot down. So today they haven't released the actual details of it, but what McConnell says is they're going to do something about half the size of that. So 300 billion is probably what it's going to be. So tiny, minuscule compared to what the Democrats were putting forward. And even that, I think he's going to have a rough time trying to get that through his caucus. And, he needs to have 51 votes just to get it discussed on the floor, and then 60 votes, including Democrats, to support it to get it passed. Democrats are not going to support a $300 billion bill when they're proposing a $3.3 trillion bill. So it's an impasse that exists because of what the Republicans have done. They've basically said that COVID doesn't matter, businesses are coming back, the V-shaped recovery has started, we don't need to do anything else. And there's all these opposing views within the White House, where some people say we need to get more checks because they love having Donnie's name on the checks. Get them another check before the election. But then there's the actual hardcore austerity folks that don't want any stimulus to pass whatsoever. So the Republicans are in a bind because they're either going to go into this election with literally no more stimulus, which is, this country is in complete free fall right now. You look at the unemployment figures that keep coming out, it's turning into permanent job loss because businesses, the Democrats had also proposed another round of PPP loans to help keep small businesses open, which the Republicans claim to, love small businesses. Well, about half of them are on the brink of closure right now, and without more funding. And so the Republicans are either going to just leave the country in economic ruins going into an election, or they're going to have to actually negotiate with the Democrats and approve something that will help people, which would be probably electorally beneficial to them, but goes against their entire, fake reality worldview that they've been pushing for certainly since the Republican convention, where they talk about the pandemic in past tense as if we've gotten over it. So that's where things are right now. The details of the bill that McConnell's putting forward have not been released yet, or at least they were not before I hopped on. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it's hard to imagine there's going to be a negotiation that's going to make both sides happy when one side is putting forward $3 trillion and the other one's putting forward $300 billion. It's just a massive gap.
Yeah, that phrase, I wrote it down, fake reality world, that you just uttered, and that at the moment, things can change, but at the moment, that seems where the Republicans are going when it comes to COVID. And it's over. Like Donald Trump was making fun of reporters for wearing masks just the other day at a press conference. He was making fun of Biden for wearing a mask. So they seem to be heading in that direction, Miles.
Just to say, I mean, cases are not going down nationally. And in fact, and not only are there hot spots, but right now, though we were seeing nationally numbers go down largely because of states like New York that have seen this super low transmission rate, they're now leveling off, and they're still incredibly high. They're still around 1,000 deaths a day, and as I said, we're about to hit 200,000 deaths total as a result of coronavirus just within the United States. So you could try to say all you want that this is over, but not only are people still dying, but they don't feel safe, and you can't have an economic recovery or reopening until people actually feel safe. So unless they're going to create the conditions under which people feel safe, it's that fake reality is not going to be believed by most people, I don't think.
Yeah, and then you raised the post office. We'll close with this. Donald Trump's effort to demonize absentee voting or mail-in voting is so bizarre because he himself is an absentee voter in Florida. And so now he's trying to distinguish between absentee voting and mail-in voting when they're it's like, if he wins on that one, then he has successfully, I mean, I make fun of MAGA all the time. They're willing to believe anything that Donald Trump says them, even to change his day to day. But He's drawing a distinction, of course, where no distinction exists in order to justify the fact that he is doing the very thing he says is by nature leading to fraud. While recommending that people in North Carolina commit actual fraud. And I don't know if you saw this, Kevin McCarthy, who is the minority leader for the Republicans, has privately asked Donnie not to do that anymore because, as I've been pointing out for a long time, Republicans need mail-in votes. They need them because a lot of the senior citizens who support Republicans are very wary of going to vote. I have made a declaration, even though I'm a geezer, even though I'm a baby boomer, even though I love songs of the 60s, Miles, as you know, I revere, and the 70s, my favorite decade ever. I'm going to go vote. Yes, I'm going to make this announcement. I haven't told you this yet, Miles. I'm going to go vote in person. I've decided I'm not mailing in because I'm just going to show that I can go and vote the old-fashioned way. I'm going to wear my mask, my hazmat suit, and I'm going to go vote. Are you going to vote in person, or are you going to do voter by mail, Miles?
Well, I really am coming to believe that if this election is to result in Donald Trump leaving office, it will require a massive voter turnout on election day of people doing in-person voting, partially because of, Trump's explicit threats or warnings that he is going to not accept the results as they come in, not to mention the massive amount of work that is going into making sure that vote by mail is going to be a fiasco and that those votes there's going to be trouble counting them. I think the only way to send the message that this country needs to send to end this administration is for there to be a massive turnout on election day. So I am right with you. I think that it's a horrible and almost impossible choice that people have to consider potentially risking their health and safety in order to participate in our democracy. But because of the conditions we're living under, that's kind of the reality. And I think that I encourage, everybody who can to, wear a mask, get a good one, and, space out in line and go vote on election day, because I think that that's really going to be required if we're going to actually unseat this president.
This is scary stuff. We'll hold off for another time of discussion about how Donald Trump is revered by neo-Nazis in Germany. Neo-Nazis in Germany. Very scary stuff. So I can't urge people enough to vote for Joe Biden. Got to get this guy out of office. Miles, before I let you go, any articles you want to promote from In These Times or any of your other writing ventures?
Sure. I will encourage folks to check out an article I mentioned earlier with the kind of interview with this anti-war veteran. Interview was conducted by my fabulous colleague, Sarah Lazar. So that's on our website right now. We also have a really great article up by Rebecca Burns, who's an ace journalist, actually based in Chicago, about the eviction crisis and how, there was a executive order, or actually it was an order through the CDC to put a moratorium on evictions through the end of the year, which was a huge win for tenants. But there's still, an eviction cliff coming at the end of the year at the earliest. And so the piece does an incredible job of looking at a lot of the efforts to protect tenants and to organize against these evictions that are going on around the country. So definitely encourage people to check that out.
All right. Thank you very much. Kampf-Lassin from In These Times, proud graduate of Whitney Young. And I say that because I saw this photograph you posted on your Facebook page of you in the Whitney Young band. I think it was back in the day.
Actually, it was I was a member of our orchestra, and that was actually me playing in our pit orchestra for the 2003 Whitney Young production of Jesus Christ Superstar, in which it was a band. I actually played guitar because it's kind of a rock opera,
Are you ready for this? I saw that. Anthony Fett played Jesus Christ. He killed it. That was one of the greatest high school productions I saw that. Wow. You were there? You were
I was playing guitar in the band.
I remember your incredible guitar solo. I was just kidding. Anthony Fett was I can't believe. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Anthony Fett is a great singer, musician, and he went to Whitney Young. And I know he loved Whitney. He loved Jesus Christ Superstar, so he killed it. He killed it in this role. I can't believe it. You were there then. Wow.
I was rocking out, and this is actually a plea to any of your listeners. If anybody knows where we did a live recording of the show, and sadly, the pre-digital era, I have lost all my analog copies of it. So if anybody has a recording out there of the 2003 Whitney Young performance of Jesus Christ Superstar, please get in touch with me and let me know.
All right, very good. I'll send you an article I wrote about it. I wrote an article in the Reader about it. Yes, I'll send it to you. Wow. As Dennis would say, I am a nerd. Anyway, Miles, Kampf-Lassin, love having you on. Thank you so much for being on, and we'll talk to you real soon. All right.
Of course. Thank you, Dennis. Talk soon.
All right, that's great, Miles Kampf-Lassin. Man, that is so embarrassing. I should have just kept my mouth shut and pretended I didn't go see that show. But I think I saw it twice.
Oh wow, let's just double down.
Anthony Fett is a superstar talent. Anyway, D, any updates before we head out the door?
Absolutely. We have some updates. First off, shout out to Whitney Young. Let me give you the Whitney Young call. Oh, yeah. Go Dolphins, huh?
Go Dolphins. Yeah.
All right. So we're a little over 50 days away from Election Day, November 3rd. And all this week on the Ben Joravsky Show, we are going to begin our local Illinois election coverage. It'll be here before you know it, Ben. So tomorrow, look for Ben and myself to bring you the details on some of the elections to watch locally, and maybe we'll get to know some of the candidates. Who knows, all right? Tune in tomorrow to find out. But right now, we would like to give a shout-out to the Chicago Sun-Times editorial board. It looks like the Sun-Times editorial board has been asking all legislative candidates one question. What grade, A to F, would you give Governor J.B. Pritzker for his handling of the coronavirus pandemic? Please explain. What, if anything, should have he done differently? I have some responses here from some legislative candidates, and we're going to read those in just moments. But Ben Joravsky, what grade, A to F, would you give J.B. Pritzker for his handling of the coronavirus pandemic? Please explain. What, if anything, should he have done differently?
I give him an A-. And the reason I don't give him a full-out A is because, I don't know, the end, he started wavering a little bit.
Well, you say the end, but I mean, it's still going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, recently. Oh, good point. I should correct it. That goddamn Dennis. Yeah. I tell you what. I give him an A-. We had a lot of, we spent a lot of time talking about the whole Metro East, tap dancing he was doing last week. So that's where it goes down to a minus. But for him to try to speak logic to citizens of Illinois while he's under a counterattack from the Looney Tunes in the Republican Party led by Donnie Trump. It's just really admirable. And I always say this, I go, it's one thing if you're an alderman in Chicago where everybody's wearing a mask, or a mayor in Chicago where everybody's wearing a mask, or most people are, blue city. And it's another thing when you have to deal with a state that is euphemistically diverse, politically speaking, whereas Dennis points out they have signs that say Pritzker sucks throughout the Metro East area. So I give him an A-, and I respect him for trying to keep the state on. He stumbled out of the box, but who didn't? Everybody. Nobody wanted to believe it was for real. D, we remember this. Come on, we remember this. Oh, yeah. Some guests, and I'm not naming any guests. I'm not naming names, D. I would not do that to them. Came on our show and said, it's a bunch of bogus BS stuff. Remember that, D, in February? Not naming names, okay? So Pritzker, not as mad as Lori Lightfoot on this one, was heading in that direction in the early stages. But since March, I think he's done a heck of a job. So there you go. That's my grade for him.
What about you, Ben Joravsky Show listener? Let us know. A grade, A through F. How has J.B. Pritzker been handling the coronavirus pandemic thus far? If you're on the live stream chat, please weigh in. Jim did. He gave J.B. a B+.
All right, B+, A-. Yeah, basically the same thing.
Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. Let us know your grade, or you can send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com, or you can call us 708-658-4788. That number again, 708 658
when he does that.
658-4788. Leave us a voicemail and give us your grade. For the record, my grade, B. A B.
God, you're tough. You are really tough.
Well, we're just learning here, the Metro East has the highest positivity rate in the state. But yeah, no surprise. Its leaders remain stubbornly defiant. So as we're kind of going through here in the late months, Pritzker was at A, and, now he's kind of, I don't know. It's a mixed bag right now. But I'd say a solid B.
All right, but I just want to point out, it's really hard to blame Pritzker because the Republican Party is leading an insurrection against wearing masks. And so, you're going to get the virus in areas where you're not wearing a mask. So if you're going to give him a B, you have to point out that what you're really doing is criticizing him for letting the DBs of the world. How about that? DBs of the world, Darren Bailey. Everybody forgets old DB.
Well, then there was a time where, Will County, that wasn't long ago, where he kind of didn't put restrictions down on Will County. He was focused on Metro East.
No, it was reversed. That's why Will County got mad. That's how he lost my A and went to an A-. What he did was, under pressure from the Republicans and getting a little nervous about those Pritzker sucks signs, he relaxed restrictions in Metro East, was tough in Will County. So what did the Republicans do in Will County? Instead of saying, hey, make them wear their masks down there, you're endangering public health, they go, well, if they don't have to wear their mask, why do we have to wear our masks? So that's how he got criticized. That's what I'm saying. It's like hard for me to be critical of Pritzker when he's dealing with freaking lunatics. How about Kirk Cousin, by the way? Do you follow that? Are you a football fan, my age? You're not really a football fan.
Not really.
Oh my! I'll save that for the Kirk Cousin.
Save that for the sports podcast that you do. All right, let's see. So we got some candidates here with their response. Shout out to the Sun-Times editorial board once again for their hard work here. House Republican leader Jim Durkin.
What did Jimmy D say?
He actually avoided giving Pritzker a grade.
Oh, come on, Durkin. Come on, Jimmy. Come on. What a wimp. Come on, man. Take a stand.
Hey, here we go. Freshman Democratic Representative Diane Pappas. Well, she also deferred to give J.B. Pritzker a grade as well. All right.
She in a swing district. Well, I don't want to get the anti-Pritzker people upset.
Okay, here we go. Republican Representative Mark Batanik, a Tier 1 target. He was an early advocate for a mask-wearing mandate. Ben, what grade do you think old Mark Batanik gave J.B. Pritzker?
D.
Nah, you would be wrong. He says a solid B. B as in boy.
Whoa, it's like you.
Whoa. The governor, he says here, the governor acted relatively quickly to halt the spread of the pandemic. Decisions made hastily aren't usually perfect, but in this instance, there was definitely more good than bad. So, hey, there you go. Republican proving you wrong, Ben.
Yeah, well, can we just take that out of the podcast? Let's redo it for the podcast. I think Batney gave him a B.
Let's see here. I'm looking here for some more grades. Let's see here. Okay. Appointed Republican Representative Brad Stevens, huh?
Brad Stevens, coach of the Boston Celtics?
No, a different person.
Brad Stevens from Rosemont. Okay, now he's in that's an interesting swing district. So I'm going to say, oh God, here we go. I'm going to say he gives him a solid B.
Oh, nope. Actually, Representative Brad Stevens went middle of the road, a C.
Oh my God. Well, some people's C's are old people's B's, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm really wrong with these grades. Oh my God. I know it's a typical thing. I got it wrong with the going under last time. I'll go over this time. Nope.
All right.
Hey, Stevens, come on, take a stand.
Habit of Stevens says, I was initially very supportive of the governor's response to COVID-19 and applauded him for moving decisively in an
I
incredibly...
don't recall any of that, by the way. Isn't that interesting how all these Republicans, I was initially very supportive. Not one word with DB was leading the insurrection. I'm just going to say, for guys who were initially very supportive, you're also silent in your support. Go ahead.
Hey, no one asked me, all right? If you would have come to me, I would have told you.
He says, that said, as time went on, I was frustrated with some inconsistencies in the reopening plan, which created confusion and uncertainty over our path forward. So a C from Brad Stevens.
Man, that statement in and of itself shows the weaselly attitude of Republicans. See, what did you want them to do differently? You want them to open up the state completely so everybody can go drinking in bars and spit in their face and pass it along? Is that what you want them to do? Is that the inconsistency? You didn't. That's Republicans, man. They don't want to take a stand. So it's like, well, I support him initially, even though you never said a word. And but now a little inconsistent on how he's opening here and there. And in other words, what you're saying is half of your freaking constituency are a bunch of nutcases who don't think we need to wear masks and think the thing is a hoax. So you got to try to kind of placate them while worried about the logical people in your district.
And finally,
that's what a C is, by the way. Go ahead.
Finally, we got Republican Tim Ozinga. Republican Tim Ozinga. He gave Governor Pritzker an F. He says,
all right. You know what? I can respect that. He must be in a solid red district, by the way.
Ozinga says Governor Pritzker has moved the goalposts on restrictions and requirements for all working class individuals in the state. He condemned our elderly to a death sentence, keeping them locked down in COVID incubators, and was fine with Illinois' economy going even further in the gutter. His only solution, it isn't one, is a federal bailout. All the while, Pritzker has directed $55 million towards his effort to pass a progressive tax that will hurt small businesses.
Wait, what does that have to do with anything? Get a Zinga.
Governor Pritzker's COVID regions put in place for his phases across the state were short-sighted and indicative of his familiarity with the state of Illinois outside Chicago. So we gave him an F. Wait, we got one more quote here from Ozinga. Step down, Madigan. Oh, okay. That really had nothing to do with anything.
By the way, Ozinga, why just say Pritzker sucks? Because your statement is basically that. What a mishmash of contradictory statements from a guy who's all over the map. On one hand, he blames Pritzker for old people in nursing homes dying. And on the other hand, he blames Pritzker for shutting down the state and destroying the economy. Well, it's one or the other. You either do something to help people to keep them from dying, or you don't do anything and you let the businesses stay open. That's the Republican Party, ladies and gentlemen. They're too wimpy to take a freaking stand. And Ozinga, is that his name? Ozinga?
Ozinga.
I ever heard of the guy before. I'm giving him an F. His F gets an F.
Oh, wow.
Two people can give F. This is cancel culture. Hey, that's the other thing, Republicans. I thought you're against cancel culture. Well, what's an F if it's not cancel culture? Huh? Azinga?
Well, you gave him a little credit at first, then it just kind of went down there. All right.
No, one Republican. Who was the one I liked? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. What a party. What a worthless party.
Ozinga's Democratic opponent, by the way, gave the governor an A. So there you go.
Is that for real, or did you just make that up?
No, that's for real.
Who's the opponent?
Don't have the information.
Come on, sometimes put that in there, all right?
All right, let's go to the live stream chat. They gave grades to JB Pritzker on his handling of the coronavirus thus far. Let's see here. Kathy on the live stream chat. Well, we mentioned earlier Jim gave Pritzker a B+. Kathy on the live stream chat gave Pritzker a C.
Whoa, Kathy's tough.
What's going on over there? You're dropping your bottle cap or something?
No, the pens fell. I put the pens back in the container.
All right, well, write that rap song after we're done with the show, please.
I gotta tell you, this is a sensitive microphone.
Picks up everything. Jay Marie, what's going on, Jay Marie? We always appreciate you. Jay Marie's grade for JB, a B.
Okay, Jay Marie's tough, a little tough too, but better than a C. Come on, Kathy.
Looks like you and Frank are in the same boat here. Frank gives JB Pritzker an A-.
Mm-hmm.
Brianna gave JB Pritzker an A+. Couldn't ask for a better governor, says Brianna.
God bless you, Brianna. You know, like the winds have changed, blowing people. They read some of the paper, they go the other way. You're standing by your guy. I like that. That was the Metro East thing. That's the only thing. I gave him the A-, but I can respect an A+.
How about Ricky Tricky, huh? Ricky Tricky on the live stream chat gave Pritzker a C+.
That's interesting. A C+. I hated C+. I got a lot of C+ in my day, D. Oh, God. I'd see the C+. It's like, oh, you're a loser, but nice try. You know, like, God damn, come on. What about a B-?
Oh, wait, actually, Frank changed his mind. A+. He's going A+.
All right, okay. Brianna changed his mind.
Shout out to Jeff Biss on the... sorry, I said your last name, dude. Shout out to Jeff on the live stream chat. Jeff gives JB Pritzker a C.
Yeah, these C's, I don't know.
And
he's entitled to his opinion, right there.
Don't get mad at our listeners. And finally, Roe gives JB Pritzker an A+. Well, that was fun, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was not good at giving grades because I felt so bad. You know what I mean? I was easy grader. Always been an easy grader whenever I had to grade anybody. So
if we get more responses, we'll read them on the show. Reach out to us at Benny J Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. BennyJShow@gmail.com, or you can call us 708-658-4788. The number again, 708-658-4788. Local election coverage starting tomorrow on the Ben Joravsky Show.
All right, I want to thank Miles Kampf-Lassin for these times. Did an outstanding job, as he always does. And, of course, I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom the show would be possible. And as everyone can tell you, Brianna will tell you, Frank will tell you, Ro will tell you, Miles Kampf-Lassin will tell you, Maya Tomasov will tell you, back home in Alton, they always give him an A. Keep yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
I'm a solid C+. And hey, remember, part 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, September 8th is coming up. It's going to be available at 7 p.m. tonight at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Tonight, we're going to be talking all things local politics and cannabis with... Let me pull it up here, make sure I get it right. Sonia Harper.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
I'd love to win a Grammy. I'd love to win a Grammy. I'd love to win a Grammy.
Take a chill pill, man. Take a chill pill, man.